Well, listen, tremendous memory. Thank you very much indeed, Rinku. Rinku is a training development officer, teacher at Phoenix Social Enterprise, just talking about villages coming together. What about a more global scale, perhaps? Charlotte Leslie for Bristol North West MP joins me now. Hello, Charlotte.
Morning.
Just fascinating listening to that, isn't it? You know, how running along in two villages can be pulled together. But here we have a man who, in some ways, pulled the world together. But I don't know how lasting that legacy is or what difference really it has made in our part of the world.
Well, I think for a politician like myself, a very junior politician, looking at Nelson Mandela, my goodness me, does he set the bar astronomically high? And I think the lesson that we can all learn is not, we're all going to give tributes and we're all going to say nice words, but Nelson Mandela achieved what he achieved, not so much by what he said or what he did, but by who he was, what was at the core and at the heart of him. And I think the lesson I take for it, the reason he was able to cut through what, let's not forget, seemed like an impossible situation of mutual hatred, wounding going back for a long time, was that where other people would have fought back, he forgave, and where most of us would have hated, he gave out love. And I think it was that personal attributes of what was at his core that gave that leadership and inspiration. And I think a lot of us now, a lot of politicians now, think that it's only about the speeches we do or some policy that we spit out, twice a year. But actually, what the heart of leadership is who you are at your core. And I think for all of us, that's a lesson we need to take away from what Nelson Mandela actually was and what he actually stood for as a man in his personal life and in his Christian faith and belief, which I think shone through, although he never talked about it very much.
Yeah, it's fascinating you talk like that as a politician, because sometimes words are cheap. But the thing about Nelson Mandela was that they're terrific sound bites when you take them as sound bites, but they were said from the heart. He believed every word he said.
Absolutely. I mean, another great man, Gandhi, said, "Be the change you want to see." And talking about it and everything is all very well and good, but it's what is your absolute core that I think people can tell and also are inspired by. People need to be inspired and looking at Mandela, forgiving those who'd hurt him and, going for reconciliation when he could have gone for retribution is an inspirational thing, and that's the only way I think you can make change, because other people look at that and say, he's done it, he's shown me a way I wouldn't have thought of, and then follow. I think that's for any of us politicians giving wordy tributes, I think that's probably the lesson we need to take. And I think, a year and a half ago we had the Marikana miners massacre in South Africa, and the nation asked itself what the legacy actually was. And I'm sure Mandela would want the legacy for South Africa to be a restoration of all the values that he stood for.
Yeah, and of course, humility to say when things are wrong or when minds are changed. Of course, back in the Thatcher era, Margaret Thatcher reportedly calling him a terrorist, and history, I suppose, has turned that very much around. What are your thoughts on that, Charlotte?
Absolutely. I mean, I was led to understand the relationship between Thatcher and Mandela was good, and they discussed ending apartheid. But I think what's so interesting about all this is that big, good, extraordinary things often can seldom be accomplished without controversy. It was an armed struggle. Now, I go back to Nelson Mandela's personal qualities. I think if he hadn't been such a man of such exceptional personal qualities, that armed struggle wouldn't have resulted in peace and reconciliation. It might have gone very wrong. And big things often are controversial in the process. But I think because it was led by a man who had at his core, not in sound bites, not in press releases, not in speeches that were just words, but at his absolute core, peace, truth, love, forgiveness and reconciliation, that's why he could cut through all those difficult steps he had to take to do what seemed like an absolutely impossible task, and has resonated throughout the world and will resonate, I think, for as long as history remembers.
Charlotte Leslie, thank you. Bristol North West MP. Your thoughts, your views, 0845 900 5949. The impact that he's had.